Hello, my name is Ed Coyne, Senior Managing Director at Sprott Asset Management. With me today is Steve Schoffstall, Director of ETFs. For those that aren't familiar with Sprott, Sprott is a global firm with a focus on precious metals and real assets. We have over 3 decades of experience and over $20 billion in assets under management. We're a publicly traded company, and we trade both on the Toronto Stock Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol SII. Most investors are familiar with us through our gold, silver, and platinum and palladium investment options. But today we're going to talk about energy transition materials. And with that, I'd like to turn to Steve to really define what that means for us as a firm and where we're seeing opportunities in the future. Steve, thank you for joining me today.
It's great to be here, Ed. And when we talk about the energy transition, we're really focused on the global structural change that is intended to turn our attention and our need for fossil fuels away to cleaner energy sources. And one of the things that appeals most to us in this part of the investment landscape is that you don't necessarily have to believe in the merits for moving to renewable energy to appreciate that there is an opportunity in that space.
Well, I think the opportunity is critical, right? I mean, so many investors now are looking for ways to allocate to the space, but often they don't know really where to go. We talk about energy transition materials, you hear the word minerals, you hear the word metals. Let's go into that a little bit. Let's dive into that a little bit. And what are some of the different ways people should be thinking about this part of the market? And then we can talk a little bit more about how people can actually allocate to this part of the market. So let's go into minerals first. How should we be thinking about that space?
Sure. So as you mentioned, the critical minerals are something that comes up a lot when you're reading and learning about energy transition. When we look at that, we're focused on defining the critical minerals as those natural materials that you need for the transmission, the generation, and the storage of clean energy. And more specifically, when we start to look at that sector, we focus on those pure play companies that are at the beginning of the supply chain, where we think that there's a potential benefit when we do see that increased investment coming into the space on a global scale. And those pure play companies, which are companies that are focused on that sector, and that's where they're focusing a lot of their business operations, is a place where we're seeing a lot of opportunity, and a place that we're really excited about.
Well, there's no question that this is at least part of our future, right? I think one of the things that people get confused on is it's this or that, right? It's either oil and gas, or it's battery technology, or it's wind technology, or the reality is we need them all, right? And so I think what you said is the front end from an opportunity standpoint, where we're seeing from an investment standpoint, from an allocation standpoint, all these different minerals and metals out there that are being used for the battery technology. But what other technologies out there should people be thinking about outside of just battery, right? That seems to be what most investors are talking about today. But what other opportunities are out there or available for an investor to really be thinking about how to allocate to this space and other uses? What other uses are happening?
Sure. When we think of critical minerals, we tend to lump those into 3 different buckets. The first is energy generation. When you look at that side of the equation, uranium is a place that we have a well-established presence. Some people aren't as clear about how silver can be used also, particularly when it comes to solar generation. So silver is useful in solar applications. Silver paste gets applied to the solar panels so that it can capture that energy from the sun and generate usable electricity. The rare earths elements are really helpful when it comes not only to EVs, given their magnetic properties, but also to wind turbines.
Okay.
When we look at the transmission aspect of the critical mineral spectrum, copper plays a significant role. It really stretches across all 3 buckets that we talk about. So when we look at copper, it's very useful when it comes to the transmission of clean energy. And anywhere that you start to see energy from solar panels or wind turbines enter the grid, it's going to play an important role. On the storage side, you already mentioned the battery materials. Most people are probably most familiar with lithium, which is in lithium-ion batteries, which is very important to EVs. There are a few other metals that we consider in the battery technology space. Nickel, cobalt, graphite, and manganese all have a role in propelling the EV evolution forward.
Well, thank you, Steve. And for those that are interested to learn more about Sprott, we encourage you to go to sprott.com. And for those that want to learn more about our full suite of products on the ETF side, we encourage you to go to SprottETFs.com. That's SPROTT ETFS.com. Thank you for listening.